الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الكريم نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم أما بعد. As we continue in Usul Thalatha, the three foundations and the three principles by the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, which, like we said, Ya Ma'ashar al-Ikhwa, is the book that the topic of the book all dwells around, or goes around the questions of the grave, where everyone will be addressed from those two angels that will come to everyone without an exception when we all pass away, we all die. As we talked about in many classes and many lessons, how the two angels will come and they will ask those questions, and which one has to be prepared for when he dies. And like we talked about, Ya Ma'ashar al-Ikhwa wal-Akhawat, that those three questions have to be addressed in a manner in which Allah Ta'ala finds it acceptable, of course. And that is only from tawfiq. Therefore Allah gives it the slave, or He gives His slave the firmness or the stability to remain firm while he's being interrogated. Because like we said, Ya Ma'ashar al-Ikhwa, those angels that are going to come in the grave, are angels that are what? Are very, very frightsome, or frightening, they are very frightening, and they're very horrific. And they'll be stern in their interrogation and their investigation of the abd, of the slave, or whether or not he truly actualized La ilaha illallah in his dunya. And from actualization of that kalima, of that testimony, is this principle of al-wala wal-bara, as we've been discussing on many classes. The reason why we've been emphasizing and repeating and emphasizing on its importance, due to the fact of how a lot of the Muslims have lost the knowledge, not only lost the knowledge, but the importance of this particular principle. Not only just being, for example, in the affair of being extreme. When we say being extreme, meaning to the point where a person, of course, would detest a person that's a non-Muslim based upon their polytheism and their kufr, but they'll go to the extremes to take their life, or maybe hurt them or harm them physically, which is a whole level of extreme. Then you'll find that the Muslims are on the opposite side of the spectrum, or the opposite side of the extreme, whereas they compromise. They compromise their religion, and they water it down in order to please them, and in order for them to so-called satisfy them. When in actuality, they're laughing at the Muslims who do this, and they lose respect for them. But however, of course, they're going to go along with it and smile in your face, just in order for what? For you to so-called think that they're with you, but in actuality, Allah Ta'ala has clarified their affair in His book, that they're truly, in reality, they're against you. And they're waiting for the possible moment when you leave off your religion, and you leave off Salafiyah, and you return back to the state in which they're upon. As Allah Ta'ala clearly says in His book, in which we'll talk about, discuss inshallah. So the affair of al-wala wal-bara, as we talked about al-wala, we said that the meaning of it in so many classes, that we said al-wala is allegiance, or to show your allegiance, or to show your contentment and your allegiance to someone. And you show your loyalty to someone or something. And we talked about the word al-wala. Al-wala is only, or that allegiance, or that allegiance and that loyalty is for Allah and His Messenger and the mu'mineen, for those who are upon the monotheism, and those who are trying their best to practice the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ upon the methodology of the Sahaba who are the Salaf. As our wala, our allegiance, our allegiance and our loyalty are for them. You take it. Huh? Oh, okay. And for the parents who bring their children, next class, inshallah, try to allow the children to come along with their books, and try to keep them consistent. I try a lot of brothers and sisters. I try to emphasize to them consistency is very important. Don't allow them to come to a class and then they're absent another. Then they'll come here, they'll be lost. They don't know what I'm speaking about, and they won't be able to attain the full benefit of the class. They're just going to be sitting there like, what is he talking about? So for the next class, inshallah, try to bring their books. And this is the reason why we need to have separate classes for the kids. But inshallah, I'm glad that they're here, so they can stay here and they can at least take some type of benefit. But for next time, inshallah, try to allow the children, number one, to be consistent in their class and their attendance. That's number one. That's very important. Number two, bring not only their notebooks, but bring the book itself, Usul Thalatha. Bring that also. And when we have some more manpower, or there's more of people who can teach, then we'll give just a separate class for the children, where they can teach more on their level, where they can understand what I'm speaking about, so they can break it down a little bit better. Because like I said, I'm almost in the middle of the book. Of course, they might attain some type of benefit, but certain things that I mentioned might go over their head. But I still prefer that the children be in the masjid and on the street, and or doing something that truly is not going to be if any little benefit or any benefit at all. So we talked about, we talked about in regards to al-wala. Al-wala, meaning the word, like we said, is to take allegiance, for one, to show his allegiance and his loyalty and his love, his close love. And we're not talking about the love as far as natural. We're talking about the love of iman, the love of one's faith, which is a deeper love. And it is more khas, and it is more specific and exclusive. For it's only for Allah and His Messenger and the mu'mineen, the people of iman. From them are the people of tawheed and the people of sunnah and the people who traverse the methodology of the salaf, as they are the ones who deserves our wala. They deserve our wala. Al-wala, like we said, is a loyalty and allegiance and love and showing true closeness. That is the meaning of al-wala, as we discussed on many occasions. Like we said, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa ma'ash al-akhawat, we said this affair of loving or showing allegiance is for Allah and His Messenger, where we say that Allah Ta'ala, we said last week that Allah calls Himself a wali. So the word wali, which is all connected, and they're derivatives of the word wala. The word wala, wali, mawla, awliya, wala yuwali, yatawalla, walla yuwalli. All of them are the same. Go back to the root word, al-waliyu or al-waliyu, as we'll talk about. And I'll discuss this already. I don't want to repeat again. But anyway, we said last week that Allah Ta'ala calls Himself a wali. He's waliyul ladina amanu. He's the wali who's the protector. He's the protector of those who believe. He's the waliyul ladina amanu. Yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur. He's the one that He takes care, and He's the trustee and the protector of those who believe. And He takes them out of that darkness and brings them into the light of iman and huda and guidance. For likewise, I knew it was too good to be true. I was going to get a stain somewhere on my throat. But anyway, for Allah Ta'ala calls Himself a wali, and likewise He calls the mu'mineen themselves. They are His awliya. They are the plural. The plural form of the word wali is awliya. So Allah calls Himself a wali, and likewise He calls those from His ibad, from His worshippers and His slaves, He calls them His awliya. Who are the awliya of Allah, as we said last week? We said the awliya of Allah are those who are upon Iman and those who fear Him, tabaraka wa ta'ala. They are the awliya of Allah in the earth. The awliya of Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, they are the ones who Allah would defend. And they are the ones who Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, will take trust of their affairs, whereas He would defend them and protect them. But at the same time, does that mean that they will not be afflicted as far as bodily harm or physical harm or trials or tribulations in their life? No, it doesn't mean that. Rather, Allah Ta'ala taking and being a trustee of the Abd's affair, of his affair, could necessitate that you will attain bodily harm or some type of sickness or some type of ailment or some type of pain. Whereas Allah Ta'ala will make that affair good for you or good for His ibad, for His awliya. We see that the greatest of awliya of Allah are the prophets and the messengers. And despite of that, were they free from harm? Were they free from pain? Were they free from sadness and from time to time and grief? No. But however, it was good for them because Allah Ta'ala wanted to raise their status and their degree in this world as well as in the hereafter by that pain and that affliction that they were tested with. So like we said, just because a person is a wali of Allah does not necessitate that they want to be free from bodily harm or physical harm or pain or stress or grief or sadness from time to time. Rather, that is a sign that maybe truly Allah loves the person and He wants to raise their level and raise their degree in this world as well as in the hereafter. So the awliya of Allah, who are the awliya? They are the people of Iman, the people of Tawheed, the people of monotheism, the people of the Sunnah, the people who are Salafiyun, who traverse the path of the Sahaba, of the companions. They are truly the awliya of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, the people of Hadith, the people of Sunnah, the people of Tawheed, the people of monotheism. They are the awliya of Allah. For Allah Ta'ala, as we know, has in so many different ayat, and I have no time, I don't have a lot of time to mention all the ayat, as I mentioned some of them last class. As you'll find how Allah Ta'ala in His book will give precedence to this affair of al-wala wal-bara in so many ayat. And you'll find that Allah Ta'ala also shows al-bara. When we say wala, is clear. As far as the word al-bara is disallegiance. It's the opposite of wala, where you show your displeasure, your disallegiance to a specific people based upon their belief or based upon their conviction or their belief system, which will come as a result of it. One has to show his disallegiance or his disavowalment, and that he's free from a certain belief and its people. That is the meaning of al-bara. That is the meaning of al-bara. Wala wal-bara, like we talked about, is so important in the book of Allah Ta'ala. And like we said, the Muslims these days are always on two opposite sides of the extremes in their affairs, in their belief system, and in their actions likewise. Like we said moments ago, the mu'min and the believer who's truly upon the correct belief always is in the middle and moderate, especially in his belief system. So no doubt a person, he sets himself free from disbelief in its people. And he sets himself free from the people from innovations and its people. But now, does it necessitate that you will have to kill them or mistreat them? Does that necessitate that? No, it doesn't. Or not being just to them or treating them in a harsh manner, in certain cases, it does necessitate that for those who make enmity, clearly. But the origin is that one is not, as long as he's in a non-Muslim country, then of course, then he shows the good mahasin, the beautiful affairs of the religion, the beautiful decorated and embellished affairs of the religion. He displays it to the non-Muslims from good etiquette and good behavior. And he also, as we're going to talk about inshallah, performs what they call al-mudara. Mudara, meaning that you show them good dealings, but at the same time you detest what they're upon. And you hate what they're upon. And it necessitates that also because of the polytheism and disbelief, that you have hatred to them. But at the same time, it does not necessitate that you mistreat them, or you hurt them, or you kill them, or you destroy their property, or you destroy their wealth, or you show mass hysteria or type of chaos, disrupting their society and disrupting their community. As you'll find out, all of this is impermissible, and it shows the lack of knowledge and how the Muslims fall into affairs where they mix up, where they're on one side of the opposite of the two extremes all the time. That is an extreme in which you'll find that the Khawarij, or some people who are upon, that they perform and they do in certain areas, in certain cities, in certain lands. But does it now go to the opposite side of the extreme, where we now start to compromise? Now that is the opposite side of the extreme, like we said. Compromising, watering down, saying we're just like you. We can have Muslim comedians. We can have Muslims, musicians. We can do what you do. We can enjoy life too. Enjoyment of life truly is what Allah and His Messenger have commanded and what they have prohibited. That's true enjoyment of life. Doing what someone would do, even if it's opposing your religion, is compromising. And which will come as a result of it, the la'na or the anger of Allah descends upon those particular people, once they have watered down the principle of al-wala wal-bara. So what is the middle course, as we talked about? As we talked about the middle course, in which you'll find that the great A'imma, not only from the A'imma, from the prophets and the messengers, stressing the importance of al-wala wal-bara, what happened with Ibrahim. عليه وعلى نبينا أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. You'll find that the great prophet and messenger, Abu al-Anbiya, Ibrahim, Khalil Rahman, you'll find that he even mentioned in his book, as some people were saying, as some from the Sufis, who are from those who go to the extreme in this affair, they'll say there's no hatred and there's no disavowalment or disallegiance in our religion. There isn't. It doesn't exist. And that's a lie. And that's a lie upon Allah. Because firstly, Allah Ta'ala says that in His book, from those who He praised, subhanahu wa ta'ala, from them actualizing this principle of al-wala wal-bara. Well, Allah Ta'ala says in His book, قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ إِذْ قَالُوا لِقَوْمِهِمْ إِنَّا بُرَآءُ مِنْكُمْ وَمِمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ كَفَرْنَا بِكُمْ وَبَدَا بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمُ الْعَدَاوَةُ وَالْبَغْضَاءُ أَبَدًا حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. That's an ayah in Surah Al-Mumtahina, ayah number 4. Allah Ta'ala says, there indeed for you is a good example in Ibrahim and those who are with him, when they said to their people, verily we are free from you. We are free from you and what you worship besides Allah. We have disbelieved in you, and it's been manifested between us and you enmity and baghda, hatred, until you believe in Allah Ta'ala alone. So you'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwah, in regards to this ayah, what did you see? Allah Ta'ala praised Ibrahim, and notice that Allah Ta'ala gave precedence in this ayah. If you look in the ayah, Allah Ta'ala says, verily we are free from you and what you worship. Notice in the ayah that Allah gave precedence to this qa'idah, this principle of wala wal bara before separation from what? Not worshiping the idols. He gave precedence to wala wal bara here. What does it say? Verily we are free from you. That's wala wal bara. And what you worship besides Allah. Notice that freeing yourself from those idols came after that. Why? To show its high level of importance and the magnitude of its importance. To the point where you see that Allah Ta'ala gave precedence to wala wal bara over what? Over one freeing himself from those deities that are associated along with his worship in the ayah, if you notice. Why? To show the great importance of it. And it comes in this order. And you'll find a lot of ayats are like that. So the ayah, it says, verily we are free from you and what you worship besides Allah. If you notice in another ayah, which is the Surah Al-Kahf, there's a lot of ayats. We don't have time to. Matter of fact, we'll start with the ayah, which is the Surah Al-Maryam. As it comes in Surah Al-Maryam, where Allah Ta'ala says in his book, وَأَعْتَزِلُكُمْ وَمَا تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَأَدْعُوا رَبِّي عَسَىٰ أَن لَا أَكُونَ بِدُعَاءِ رَبِّي شَقِيًّا عَسَىٰ أَن لَا أَكُونَ بِدُعَاءِ رَبِّي شَقِيًّا. The Allah Ta'ala also says in Surah Al-Maryam, ayat number 48. Notice it says in the same exact order that we just mentioned. He says, وَأَعْتَزِلُكُمْ وَمَا تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. He says that I have cut you off. I've separated myself from you. This is Ibrahim, Khalil Rahman. I've cut myself off and I've made myself introverted, freeing myself from you and what you invoke besides Allah. Why, everyone? What do you notice in the ayah? What is noticed in the ayah? What did Allah give precedence from what over what? So if you want to write in your book under that ayah, if you want to really truly benefit, you will write right under that ayah. Put notice Allah, put wala wal bara over what? Worship besides Him. Which is to show that Allah Ta'ala in this ayah, in the arrangement of the order of how Allah mentioned certain affairs, He gave precedence and high importance to what? To wala wal bara over what? Over worship of those idols or anything that's associated with partners along with His worship Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So that's another example. All these are affairs to show that there is a type of what? There is a type of praiseworthy hatred in Islam. It is. Praiseworthy hatred in Islam where one hates for Allah. He hates for Allah. He hates polytheism in its people. And he hates innovations in its people. He hates disobedience, also likewise, in its people. But however, that is some details in which we'll give, inshallah, as far as the third category. So notice in the ayah, which is in Surah Al-Maryam, Allah Ta'ala gave precedence to what? Wala wal bara over what? One freeing himself from shirk, from polytheism itself. If I don't know, if there's not enough examples, except this one example to show how important wala wal bara is, then I don't know what is. For the wala wal bara was mentioned before the actual separation and disavowalment of an individual or Muslim from polytheism itself. Notice he frees himself from its people before freeing himself from the idols, to show you the high importance of it, which is in Surah Al-Maryam. There's another ayah which is Surah Al-Kahf, which is ayah number 16. In Surah Al-Kahf, Allah Ta'ala says in His book, فَلَمَّا اعْتَزَلَهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ يَنْشُرُ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَيُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. Notice Allah Ta'ala says in His book, He says, and when they left its people off, meaning those youth, as it comes in Surah Al-Kahf in the first 3 pages, as it was talking about the youth, And Surah Al-Kahf was not talking about how Farrakhan says. He was talking about the white man and the dog and the dog and the white man and all this other nonsense that he miss and twists and alters as far as the tafsir of it. No. The ayat was talking about tawheed still. It was talking about monotheism. It was talking about how those shabab or those youth left off its people of those who are what? Who are worshiping other than Allah. And Allah Ta'ala saved them. And as a result of them leaving off the people who were committing polytheism, Allah Ta'ala had caused them to fall asleep in the cave. And Allah Ta'ala had preserved. Brothers, please pay attention. Pay attention. Fadal. Good. You need something? I thought he needed some keys or something. Oh. The ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, the ayat which comes in Surah Al-Kahf is all pertaining to how those shabab or those youth had established monotheism. They established monotheism, and the first thing that they did was what? They left off the people of polytheism. And as a result of it, notice Allah Ta'ala says in the ayah, He says, and when they had introverted them and made themselves introverted from their people, meaning separated themselves from them. Listen to this. It says in the ayah, firstly, what did they do? فَلَمَّا اعْتَزَلَهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ يَنْشُرُ لَكُمْ عَفْوًا وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ يَنْشُرُ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُم مِّن رَحْمَتِهِ, which is ayah number 16. Again, in Surah Al-Kahf. He says, and when they had left them off, what is again in this ayah? What is this showing everyone? Bala wal bara again. And it gave precedence over what? Over them worshiping those idols. Meaning from the people who was falling into polytheism. So notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned from their virtues is that they what? They cut them off. They made themselves introverted. From them, cutting them off totally. And Allah gave precedence to that over what? Of them worshiping, associating partners along with Him in His worship as far as worshiping those idols. This also is to show the importance of al-wala wal-bara. How many of you seen, and I'm sure everyone has seen with their own eyes, has the Muslims actually established this affair? How many videos do you see? Muslims being comedians, Muslims also falling into grave worshiping, trying to appease the non-Muslims. See, we could commit shirk like you too. It also creeped inside the foundation. We want to be like you. Even in the aspect of our foundations, we want to emulate you and imitate you. So you find where the Muslims even try to invoke Muhammad. They try to celebrate birthdays like the non-Muslims do. They try to have celebrations like Christmas like the non-Muslims do. Is this actualizing wala wal bara? Hasha wa kalla. And this is the reason why the disgrace and the humiliation has fell upon the Muslims who fell into this. Because they fell into another type of extreme, which is compromisal, which came as a result of it. The disgrace and the humiliation has fell upon them because of them not actualizing this principle and ignoring the ayat. And not only ignoring some of these ayat, they even apologize to the non-Muslims for these ayats being in the book of Allah. You'll find them going to that extreme. We apologize for it being hatred in the religion. We apologize for it being wala wal bara. We apologize. You apologize for hating what Allah hates? You apologize for hating who Allah hates? For what Allah hates and who Allah hates? Because, like we talked about in previous lessons, if it was an affair that Allah does not hate, and He doesn't hate a certain people, why is there a hellfire then? Can you get around that reality? If there's not an affair that Allah hates certain people and hates certain beliefs and certain actions, why is there a hellfire? And why is Allah going to punish certain people in it? Nasallahu yu'afina wa iyyakum. And why is Allah going to put certain people in it? Because it clearly shows there is what? There are people and there are beliefs and there are ideologies that Allah hates, and there are people who embrace them, He hates them likewise. Because if that wasn't the case, then that wouldn't have been a reason for Him punishing them in the hereafter. Why? Because as a result of it being certain corrupt ideologies and beliefs in the people's minds, and when they embraced it and practiced it, Allah punished them as a result of it. Which is to let you know clearly what, everyone? That Allah Ta'ala hates certain affairs, hates beliefs, corrupt ideologies, corrupt beliefs, and those people who embrace it. And the same thing with the Muslims too, who embrace those certain ideologies of innovations. He separates himself from innovations in his people. A person would say, well, what's the proof of that? The proof of that is what comes in that hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, there'll be 73 sects in hell from his own ummah, except one. Why? Because those Muslims embrace what, everyone? Ideologies and beliefs that Allah was displeased with and Allah hated. And as a result of it, He punished them because of it. Because bid'ah, like we talked about in innovations, is a type of what? It's a type of fisk. It's a type of disobedience. Rather, it's the worst form of disobedience because it's some type of discrepancy in the belief system of the Muslim, where it causes some type of corruption in himself as a Muslim. So that's the reason why we clearly show Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, that there is a type of hatred in our religion. You have to hate what Allah hates. There's no getting around it. And like we said, for a person that says no, there is no hatred in Islam. Yes, it is. It's clearly in the ayah, Surah Al-Mumtahina. It's in ayah, Surah Al-Mumtahina, ayah number 4. Clearly. It says it's manifested between us and you, hatred and enmity. Because of what? You're a part of disbelief and idolatry, of what you associate partners with Allah. And a person would say, okay, well, why is this? Then you would ask the Muslim, don't you believe in hell? Don't you believe in paradise? Yes, I believe in hell and paradise. So if there's going to be people, you believe there's going to be people in hell, right? Yes, I do believe people's going to be in hell. So why would it be a hellfire if there's no type of hatred for a certain type of belief or a certain type of people? Huh? Answer the question. Is it clear, everyone? So that's the reason why the affair of wala wal bara is so important. Listen to this affair, or listen to the benefit of what Ibn al-Qayyim mentions, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya al-Alama. He says, due to the fact that, of course, all these ayats that we mentioned, you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives precedence to what, everyone? Huh? What does He give precedence to? I don't want to hear from the sisters. Huh? Wala wal bara, giving precedence to what? Over what? Number one, you'll notice in the ayat, when the people actualize this qa'idah, this principle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, listen to this beautiful ayat. Well, Allah ta'ala talked about Ibrahim. Listen to this ayah. He says, فَلَمَّا اعْتَزَلَهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَهَبَنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. He says, when Ibrahim, he left them off, he cut them off, and also what they worship along with Allah, Allah gave him in exchange something beautiful. He gave him 2 sons and made them both prophets. And that is the reward when a person actualizes Tawheed, when he cleanses his shahada by actualizing all these principles, which will be the result of it, inshallah, you prepared yourself for death truly. This is from it. These are from those affairs, but from those very vital, important, detrimental affairs. He says, when he left them off, and what they used to worship along with Allah, He says, we granted to him Ishaq wa Yaqub, and we gave them and we made them both prophets. And listen to what happened, and go back to the story what happened with the youth who cut themselves off from shirk and his people and from polytheism itself. Allah, and what came as a result of it, brothers and sisters, who read Surah Al-Kahf every day, which also likewise is talking about Tawheed. What happened to them? He says when they says فَلَمَّا فَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ عَفْوًا وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ يَنْشُرُ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ. Listen to what it says. He says when they left off, and they left the people off, and they did not worship anyone except Allah. Look what Allah gave him as an exchange. He said, فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ. Go to the cave, and your Lord will give you mercy. يَنْشُرُ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَيُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. And He will prepare and facilitate for you His mirfaq, His rifq, His gentleness. And Allah Ta'ala saved the youth because of them cutting them off and actualizing monotheism. He allowed them to what? Allah saved them from them. And He put them in the cave, and Allah Ta'ala put them to sleep for a long period of time. And He was twisting their bodies in order to preserve it. The preservation of their bodies, Allah kept twisting it open from one side to the other. And to the point where it says in the tafsir, if you look in the ayat, He says that if you seen them while Allah was allowing this to happen, you would have been in horror and fright of how Allah preserved them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this to them to save them from their people who was upon polytheism and kufr. If you look to the story what happened of why it was called Surah Al-Kahf. The reason why it's called Surah Al-Kahf of the cave is because of the people who are worshiping, who are falling into polytheism and idolatry. And there was a group of shabab, of youth, who cut them off because they were displeased with the polytheism they were upon. And as a result of it, Allah gave them a beautiful exchange where He gave them mercy and preserved them and saved them from His people. And that's when they went inside the cave. So the ayah of that particular story is not talking about the black man, of the white man being the dog and following the dog and all the other nonsense that Farrakhan says. That's not the tafsir of the ayat. The ayat of the surah is pertaining to how Allah intended it to be interpreted, not your interpretation. The ayah and the interpretation of the ayat was talking about the people of monotheism who separated themselves from the people of kufr and shirk. And as a result of it, Allah gave them a beautiful exchange, which is of what? Which is saving them and putting them in the cave and saving their bodies until the point where Allah Ta'ala had what? Raised them after a certain period of time. And they asked themselves, how long were you in the cave? They said 1 day or what? A half a day. So فَبَعَثُوا أَحَدُكُمْ بِوَرِقِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامًا فَلْيَأْتِكُمْ بِرِزْقٍ مِّنْهُ وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ وَلَا يُشْعِرَنَّ بِكُمْ أَحَدًا. To the end of the ayah. He says, كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ قَالُوا لَبِثْتُمْ. For a long period of time you have been in the cave. It was asked, one of them, how long were you in the cave? He says, whether a day or a half a day. He says now, whether you were in here for a long period of time, of numerous of years. And then He sent one of them to go out into the what in the story? I don't have time to get into the story of the calf. But anyway, the point of the reason why the ayah with Surah Al-Kahf was mentioned is because they had cut the people off and what they were worshiping along with Allah. That's the whole meaning of why Surah Al-Kahf was even what? Called Surah Al-Kahf. Listen to what Ibn al-Qayyim that he goes on to say. He says, فَعَلَيْكَ بِهَذِهِ النُّكْتَةِ فَإِنَّهَا تَفْتَحُ لَكَ بَابًا إِلَى عَدَاوَةِ أَعْدَاءِ اللَّهِ فَكَمْ مِنْ إِنسَانَ لَا يَقَعُ مِنْهُ الشِّرْكِ. Listen to this point. وَلَكِنَّهُ لَا يُعَادِي أَهْلَهُ فَلَا يَكُونُ مُسْلِمًا بِذَلِكَ إِذْ تَرَكَ دِينَ جَمِيعِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ ثُمَّ قَالَ كَفَرْنَا بِكُمُ الْآيَةِ ظهر وبان وتأمل تقديم العداوة على البغضاء لأن الأولى أهم من الثانية فإن الإنسان قد يبغض المشركين ولا يعاديهم فلا يكون آتيا بالواجب عليه. الله أكبر. حتى تحصل منه العداوة والبغضاء ولا بد أيضا من أن تكون العداوة والبغضاء باديتين أي ظاهرتين, as we'll talk about inshallah. He says, but based upon all these ayats that we mentioned, there are more than that, we just suffice by mentioning some. He says, it will open for you a door, no doubt, of enmity of the enemies of Allah. He says, for how many from people? He says that they do not fall into shirk at all. Listen to this. He says, however, they do not show enmity to its people. So he's not a Muslim because of that. Generally, and I say generally because I don't want people to go around and start saying, oh, I seen you you was in the comedian with the movies in the club, you're a kafir. No. Brothers and sisters, there's a difference between a general ruling, that's here, and applying the specific ruling to a specific individual. That's something different. Keep that in mind. But here we're mentioning it generally to show the importance of al-wala wal-bara. He says, why? Because notice in the ayah comes in Surah Al-Mumtahina, as we just mentioned, it says going on in the paragraph. He says, and Allah Ta'ala clearly says that Ibrahim and the people who are with them, we have disbelieved in you, and it has manifested between us and you what? Enmity and hatred, forever, until you what? Unify in His law, in His worship alone. So it goes on to say, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ إِنْ كَانَتِ الْبَغْضَاء مُتَعَلِّقَةٌ بِالْقَلْبِ فإنها لا تنفع حتى تظهر آثارها وتبين علامتها. I'm going to summarize this because we got other stuff we got to discuss. I'm going to read just what Ibn al-Qayyim. Ibn al-Qayyim mentions in his book called Ahkam Ahl al-Dhimma. Ahkam Ahl al-Dhimma. The rulings in regards to the people of Dhimma, or the people, how can you translate people who are Ahl al-Dhimma? The people who are under the Muslim as far as in their treaties or the treaties that they have or establishment with them. No. Yeah, Ahkam al-Dhimma is the people who are they're under the protections of the Muslims where they give them the jizya. They gives them the jizya, meaning the tax. Meaning that of course we know if the Muslims were strong, how it was years and years ago, if the non-Muslims were in the land, the Muslim or the leader will allow them to stay upon their what? Their religion, as long as they pay that tax to the Muslim. That's the ahkam of the people of Dhimma. But anyway, that's the meaning of the book. That's the title of the book called Ahkam, how to deal with the people of Dhimma, meaning the non-Muslims who are under the rulership of the Muslims. But anyway. So Ibn al-Qayyim says in that book, listen to what he says. He says, "Man tawalla al-kuffar habita amaluh." He says, whoever takes the kuffar, tawalla, notice he used the word again, tawalla. Whoever takes the kuffar as awliya, then his actions are nullified. He says, ثم أخبر عن حبوط أعمال متوليهم ليكون المؤمن لذلك من الحذرين. He says, Allah Ta'ala, Ibn al-Qayyim mentions in Ahkam Ahl al-Dhimma, he says, Allah informs of how one's actions will be rendered fruitless and null and void for the people who take them as awliya. In order for the mu'min to be upon guard and to be cautious. Then Ibn al-Qayyim mentions the ayat which is in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayat number 53, where Allah Ta'ala says in His book, وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَهَؤُلَاءِ الَّذِينَ أَقْسَمُوا بِاللَّهِ جَهْدَ أَيْمَانِهِمْ إِنَّهُمْ لَمَعَكُمْ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فَأَصْبَحُوا خَاسِرِينَ. Ayat which is in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayat number 53. If you notice in the ayah, it says, and it's talking about how, just to give the meaning just concisely, of those who took the non-Muslims as awliya, to the point where they even swore by Allah, of those who now have became with them, and showing their allegiance to them, showing their allegiance and their pleasure and their what? Their acceptance of taking them as what? Close friends in faith. And taking them close as awliya. Allah Ta'ala says clearly in the ayah, He says as a result of it, what happened? He said their actions was rendered fruitless. And they became for those who are losers. For like we said, this is the asl that we're laying down. However, we do not now go to the extreme where we now start to mistreat them. And it's what a Muslim does, especially here in this country, is what they call mudara. Mudara is that you display what is of what will make the non-Muslims love the religion of Al-Islam, which we'll discuss, inshallah, of the ayat which is in Surah An-Nisa. No, it's in Surah Ali Imran. وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ. In the same ayah where it says that, He says, إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَاهُ وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ وَإِلَى اللَّهِ الْمَصِيرُ. I don't have the time to talk about that. But anyway, the ayah is to show that one is to still show good dealings with them, especially those who have not displayed enmity with you in your religion, or mistreated you or casted you out of your land to the end of it, that you what? Have good dealings with them and good treatment with them in order to what? Allow it to be an incentive for them to embrace Islam. So there's no problem with now, like we said, sending a gift to those who are not on the occasions when they have their holidays. We're not talking about that. We're talking about on any given day or any general day, sending a gift to your mother, sending a gift to a non-Muslim. If you see, of course, this will be a reason for them embracing Islam. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not talking about on the holidays. We're talking about on any other day, because there's a lot of other days during the year you could do it. So why would you do it on the holiday? What we're talking about on the other day, you might just send them a gift, send your mother a gift, buy your mother certain things, buy your father certain things, go to the market, treating them good. For we will find that the Muslims, due to the fact that they don't learn this principle correctly, you'll find them mistreating their mother and father. Going home, well, I learned wala wal bara. I hate you, kafir. That's not how you apply it. You're a kafir to me. I'm free myself from you. And your father's looking at you, what happened? What came over you? No doubt you hate them and detest because of his kufr. But now does this necessitate you now to mistreat him or mistreat her? Rather you would now display what? Good dealings and character in order for him to be upon what you're upon. So if they now start to see that you're being obedient to them, because all we know there's other ayats, where Allah Ta'ala, even even makes it obligatory upon the mu'min to obey his parents, even if they're non-Muslims, and to treat them with kindness and honor and reverence, as long as they don't command you to do something that will make Allah Ta'ala angry by what? Committing polytheism or some type of act of disobedience such as drinking or smoking or anything of that type of indulgence of those affairs that's displeasing to Allah, as we'll talk about. So that's the reason why we're trying to what? Teach the people to be in the middle and knowing how to apply these principles. We don't want to be too from one people who what? Now go to the extreme where they start to mistreat their what? Non-Muslim parents or their non-Muslim relatives. If they start to mistreat them, or if they cast you out, or they're showing enmity, or they're making mockery of your religion, that's something different. And there's a certain manner you have to deal with them likewise. But if there's people who just don't know what's going on, okay, you became Muslim, you walked in the house, you're Muslim now, okay. Now show them and display to them all the good, beautiful qualities of the religion. Show to them that you're an obedient person and you're doing it for Allah. In order for you to what? Gain their respect so they can have the desire to enter the fold of Islam. Because now when they see that you're a different person, you treated them with reverence and respect, and you're not rebellious, rather you're a person that is going to the market and aiding them when they're sick, and also when they need something of care or certain types of needs that they have or necessities that need to be taken care of, and they see you doing it, they will see this will be a reason for you, that this will be a reason for them accepting the religion. But however, we still have to hold on to these principles, because at the same time, wala and bara, or hatred for Allah and loving for Allah, is the most greatest of that which binds his faith and keeps it together. And as we know, somebody's phone going off. You'll find that there are certain stories, and we'll just mention a couple, then we'll go into the next principle. And I'm going to stop, and I'm going to think we'll suffice with this, because there's a lot in regards to this matter of wala wal bara. There's a whole lot. But just give a couple of stories of what happened with the Sahaba. Of what happened even with Ka'b ibn Malik, the great Sahabi, radiyallahu anhu ardah. Listen to what happened with Ka'b ibn Malik. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the story of what happened with Ka'b ibn Malik. When he left off the Ghazwat Tabuk, he said that he left off the expedition or the fight of Tabuk. As we know, the story is kind of long, it's a little bit lengthy. However, we'll summarize it. However, the point of reference in the story, when Ka'b ibn Malik, when he left off Ghazwat Tabuk, as we know, Ghazwat Tabuk was from those important Ghazawat, or those battles that took place, which was very important to the point where everyone was called out to participate in that particular fight from the Sahaba. Ka'b ibn Malik remained behind. And he had no excuse. He had no excuse. فَلَمَّا قَدِمَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ رَاجِعًا مِنْ تَبُوكَ. He says, when the Prophet ﷺ came back from Tabuk, جَاءَ الْمُتَخَلِّفُونَ, those who stayed back came to the Prophet ﷺ, trying to apologize to him. يَعْتَذِرُونَ إِلَيْهِ. So from those who, from amongst them, was Ka'b ibn Malik, the great Sahabi. However, he didn't apologize. Rather, he says, وَلَكِنَّهُ لَمْ يَعْتَذِرْ. Basically, he knew he was wrong, 100%, to the point where he just said, I have no excuse, O Messenger of Allah. There's no excuse. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said, he's spoken the truth in his statement. Listen to this tremendous story. This story is tremendous. So the Prophet ﷺ gave him a period of time until revelation had descended about his affair. So the Prophet ﷺ had prohibited the people that they speak to him. After 40 days and nights, we know after the period of 40 days, not only the Prophet ﷺ commanded that the people leave him off as far as talking and speaking to him, but even to the point where he was tested, whereas even it was commanded for his wife to leave him off. This great Sahabi, Ka'b ibn Malik, that his wife leave him off. And to the point where she was commanded not to even stay in the same house with him. He says, وَتَصَلَّقَتْ ذَاتُ يَوْمًا عَلَى حَائِطٍ لِبْنِ عَمِّي وَهُوَ أَحَبُّ النَّاسِ إِلَيْهِ. He says, even to the point, one day, he says, even the Libni Ammi, even the son of my uncle, he says, who was also people who were close to me, rather the most beloved people to me. He says, I went by him, he didn't even give me salams. He said, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا رَدَّ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ. So he said to him, do you not know that I love Allah and His Messenger? So he said, Allahu wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Messenger knows best. He says, فَدَمَعْتْ عَيْنِي. So my eyes started to what? Weep. I started to cry. He says, يَقُولُ كَعَبْ وَكُنَّا كَمَا قَالَ اللَّهُ عَنَّا. He says, we were as exactly how Allah says in the ayat, which is still being recited to this day. He said, the earth became constricted around us, became tight, بِمَا رَحُبَتْ. He says, of what it became of, that constrictedness. He says, everything around us became what? Very tight. Meaning that we were in a state of discomfort to this point. He says, تَخَيَّلَ هَذِهِ الصُّورَةِ. So keep in mind, brothers and sisters, that this was a very, very strenuous, very tremendous test. This was a test. I'm sure anyone right now couldn't imagine coming home to people, not only the people around you, for the Muslims didn't give salams, but even to the people in your own family. I'm sure the majority of us these days would have left Islam. Khalas, I'm done with this religion. Because we know of our people who are extremely weak in the level of Iman, these days at times, of the weakness that our people have. He says to the point where even the leader of the Muslims, who's the head of all the Muslims, the Prophet himself, left him off. Most beloved person who was living at the time, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, didn't speak to him. Nor those who Allah loves from the Sahaba didn't speak to him. Nor his relatives, no one. So فَهَلْ غَيَّرَ هَذَا مِنْ وَلَائِهِ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Now the question we want to ask, did this change him from having his wala for Islam and his wala from Allah and His Messenger? So now put in this predicament, everyone, this is a test from Allah. And we know Allah, like we talked about at the beginning of this lesson, everyone, what do we say? Allah tests those who He loves, and He will give them the hardest of tests. The most hardest and the most difficult of tests. And this was a very difficult test. The test goes on. It doesn't stop here. So imagine, okay, the Messenger of Allah didn't speak to him. The Sahaba didn't speak to him. That in itself is tremendous. That in itself will make anyone break down. Not only that, his wife and those close relatives to him. He said, now keep going. He says, even though this was the case, this did not allow Ka'b ibn Malik, the great Sahabi, to leave off wala wal bara, and to leave off those who are enemies of Allah. He says, Hasha wa kalla. Now listen what goes on to say. He says, I used to go to the markets in Medina. He says, Ida. He says, then there was a nabati min anbati ahli sham. Listen to this, how Allah tested him. To Allah, Ta'ala tested him to the point where certain people, the kuffar, came to him. Listen to this story. He said, I was in the marketplaces. He said, there was a nabati. A nabati basically is a person of, I think the person of the book, or person who are enemies with Islam at the time from the people of the book, who are showing their enmity and their hatred. He said, this nabati from the Anbat, Ahl Sham, from the people of Sham. They were either people of Kufr or the people of book, who hated the Prophet, and hated Islam. He said, they came, and listen to this. He said, they came with food, and they were selling it in Medina. So one of them said, who will show me to Ka'b ibn Malik? He says, so the people started to what? Point. فَطَفِقَ النَّاسُ يُشِيرُونَ لَهُ. He says, so the people started pointing. He's him, that's him. He says, until, he said, one of them came to me, and he put to me and gave me a letter, meaning a letter that was from the king of Ghassan, upon Kufr. And he said in it, as to what follows. He says, it has reached me that your companion has left you off. He's talking about the Prophet ﷺ. And he has treated you what? And he's being harsh with you. Jafaka. He says, وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْكَ اللَّهُ بِدَارِ هَوَانٍ وَلَا مَضِيعَ فَالْحَقْ بِنَا فَالْحَقْ بِنَا نُوَاسِكَ. He says, وَلَا مُضِيعَ فَالْحَقْ بِنَا نُوَاسِكَ. He says, for verily, Allah has not left you with no place where you to stay in this type of place of embarrassment or ridicule. Meaning that you could go somewhere else. Or for you to be left off and neglected. He says, come to us, we'll treat you good. She says, so this is what Ka'b ibn Malik, he had wala wal bara in his heart. Knew it was a test from Allah. What did he do? I'm tired of the Muslims. I'm tired of this mistreatment. I'm out of here. I'm gone. What did he do? Ka'b ibn Malik, he said, I took the letter and I put it on the stove and I burnt it up. So look to the strength of Ka'b ibn Malik. And he still had his enmity with the what? For those who Allah hates, those who hate Allah and his messenger. To the point where even their heads came to try to get him to leave it off from their heads. Even though he was under these extreme, harsh, difficult circumstances. What came as a result of it? Days later, everyone, Allah sent down the ayah saying that Allah had accepted his tawbah. Allah accepted his tawbah. And it revealed and sent down an ayah as it pertains to it. To the point where it's recited all the way up to the day of resurrection. Who would not want to know that the Lord of the heavens and the earth accepted your tawbah and you were informed about it? How would you feel? To the point where his severe sadness and grief turned to tremendous what? Happiness and relief. And that's usually what happens in everyone's life. How many of us have known this personally? When things are going so much chaotic in your life, and you're right there, that Allah's about to give you relief, and then you put yourself in a worse predicament where you leave off the religion. When your relief is right there, about to come, then you regress. Rather, you'll find in this story, he didn't regress. He still stayed firm upon what? Uprightness, until not only did he get his relief to the point where he was in a state of what is the greatest of all states, which is what? Which is keeping his faith intact. There's one more story and then we'll stop. There's a story of the great Sahabi. His name was Umayr ibn Sa'd, Umayr ibn Sa'd, the great Sahabi, radiyallahu anhu. His name was Umayr ibn Sa'd. And I'll say the story, then we'll stop. There's other stories, but this is just to give a couple. What happened with Umayr ibn Sa'd, that he was in a society, of course, for men. He was known to be from families and in a society for men who were very, very strong and very stern. And he was young at the time. صغار السن. فلن يبلغ هذا المستوى من الولاء. For he reached a high level, even though he was young. He reached a high level of wala. Wala for Allah and His Messenger and for the mu'mineen. And it was real strange that to the point where he reached this level at a young age that he was upon. He was young, like these little youth here. He was real young. So Umayr ibn Sa'd, his father died, and he was young. And his mother married another man. And his mother married a man, not only she married another man, of course, but married a man who was wealthy from the tribe of Aus. And like we talked about, a lot of the Sahaba were from the tribe of Aus. And his name of his stepfather, his name was Jalas ibn Suwaid. Jalas ibn Suwaid. Not only did he embrace him, but Umayr ibn Sa'd loved him. He loved his stepfather. He loved his stepfather. And he loved him and embraced him as his son, and he embraced him as a father. Listen to what happened again. Ghazwat Tabuk. The expedition of Tabuk happened again. So Umayr came to Jalas, his stepfather, one day. And he said, وَجَعَلَ يَذْكُرُ لَهُ مَنْ تَصَدَّقَ لِلْجِهَادِ. And he started telling Jalas of those who gave charity in order to what? To give that money to aid the expedition. So it could be financed and they can buy all the things that they needed. He says, and he mentioned this all to them, and also those who were crying because they weren't able to participate. So all this in order to what? To incite his desire, so he could participate, to give sadaqah and to also likewise participate in the good that was available for them to participate in, to attain this type of reward. So Jalas said something to Umayr ibn Sa'd that was tremendous, which was a very dangerous word. Until even Umayr ibn Sa'd was surprised. So keep in mind, this man was very beloved to him, and he was beloved to, likewise vice versa. Umayr was beloved to him, and he was beloved to Umayr. So listen to what Jalas said to Umayr ibn Sa'd. He said, وَاللَّهِ لَإِنْ كَانَ مَا يَقُولُ مُحَمَّدْ حَقًّا لَنَحْنُ الشَّرُّ مِنَ الْحَمِيرِ. He said, I swear by Allah, if what Muhammad is saying, which is true, he said that we're more evil than the donkeys. Basically to make mockery. So Umayr ibn Sa'd said, Wallahi, listen to what he said. Did he say, oh, you're the most beloved to me, you, mashallah, you're rich, you got a lot of money, I'm going to hang in there because of the money, hang in there, you're real wealthy, I'm just going to water it down a bit, you got a lot of cash, like a lot of us would have did in these days. The money, they see the glitter and the glamour, khalas, I'm sold. Even though in my heart you're wrong, but, I'm weak, I like money, I like stuff. So Umayr ibn Sa'd, and this is also a young youth, a youthful child, a person who was young saying in this state, we being tested. He said, Wallahi ya Jalas, he said, verily you is the most beloved of people to me. And you are the most beloved of those to me. And وَأَحْسَنُهُمْ عِنْدِي بَلَاءً وَأَعَزَّهُمْ عَلَيَّ مِنْ أَنْ يَصِلَ الشَّيْء يَكْرَهُهُ. You are the most beloved of people to me, and you're the most excellent, also likewise of what I'm being tested with. He says, and you are the most honorable to me. He says that of those who are what? مِنْ أَنْ يَصِلَهُ شَيْء يَكْرَهُهُ. That I wouldn't expect that something would emanate of you that I would detest. He said, but indeed you said a statement that if I was to spread it, you would be what? You would be exposed. He says, and however, I also likewise, وَلَئِنْ كَتَمْتُهَا لَأُهْلَكَنْ وَلِإِحْدَاهُمَا أَهْوَنُ عَلَيَّ مِنَ الْأُخْرَى. He says, and if I was to keep it hidden, I most definitely would be destroyed. Meaning that maybe perhaps Allah will send down an ayah exposing me too. He said, for verily one of the two affairs is more easy to me than the other. So what did he do? Did he cover it up? He told the Prophet ﷺ. And he told and said what Jallas said. And when that reached Jallas, his stepfather, Kharaj, hatta ata Nabi ﷺ, he says when he informed the Prophet ﷺ what Jallas said, he says he left out until he came to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. And he started to swear by Allah, I didn't say it, or I didn't say it. ما قال عمير بن سعد ولقد كذب علي سعد. Umayr is lying on me. The certain things even people these days try to say, oh, you misconstrued what I said. That's not exactly what I said. Or you took it out of context. He said that he's lying on me. How many times have we heard that from a lot of people? And you bring the recorder and you show it clearly. This is what you said, clear as day. طيب. So keep in mind, this is a little young little what? Boy, basically. So you know that more than likely a person that's an adult is going to take the word of the what? Of the adult. So Allah Ta'ala what? Sent down the ayah, which is a sort of Tawbah. Ayah number 74. Allah sent down the ayah. He says, يَحْلِفُونَ بِاللَّهِ مَا قَالُوا وَلَقَدْ قَالُوا كَلِمَةَ الْكُفْرِ وَكَفَرُوا بَعْدَ إِسْلَامِهِمْ وَهَمُّوا بِمَا لَمْ يَنَالُوا وَمَا نَقَمُوا إِلَّا أَنْ أَغْنَاهُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ فَإِنْ يَتُوبُوا يَكُ خَيْرٌ لَهُمْ وَإِنْ يَتَوَلَّوْا يُعَذِّبُهُمُ اللَّهُ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا في الدنيا والآخرة وَمَا لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا نَصِيرٍ. Allahu Akbar. Allah sent down the ayah. So Allah exposed it. And this ayah is still recited to this day. He said, they will come to you, Muhammad, swearing by Allah, that they said, that they didn't say such and such. They did say such and such. They said a statement of disbelief. And they disbelieved after the Islam. And they, وَهَمُّوا بِمَا لَمْ يَنَالُوا. He says, and they tried to carry out something that they never even attained. But their goals basically was what? Their fooled, or their plans was foiled. He says, and they did not detest except that Allah and His Messenger, what? Had enriched them from His bounty, meaning Allah's bounty. So then Allah said, so verily, if they make tawbah, He said, it's better for them. And if they turn away, Allah will punish them a very severe punishment in this world and the hereafter. And they will have no one in the earth of anyone who will protect them or be one to aid them. So Allah, to the Prophet ﷺ, when he heard this ayah, when this ayah was sent down, he said, the Messenger of Allah took Umayr. He said, فَأَمْسَكَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ بِأُذُنِ Umayr. He said, he took him by his ear. And he said it to his ear, وَفَّتْ أُذُنُكَ وَصَدَّقَكَ رَبُّكَ. He said, he took him by his ear and he said to him in his ear, this young boy, he says, your ears was right and your Lord had what? Confirmed what you said. And you was truthful. What came as a result of it, Jallas made Tawbah. And not only did Jallas make Tawbah, his Islam became good. And he became from the best of people. So that outcome was good for not only, see how truthfulness and veracity, it will bring about an outcome that is best for everyone in the end. But if he had the opportunity, he could have lied and covered it up. But his wala was in bara did not allow him to do that. He says, فَتَحَمَّلَ عُمَيْرُ هَذَا الْمَوْقِفَ الصَّعْبِ. He says, Umayr ibn Sa'd had what? Had took the burden on and was very strong. At this very difficult circumstance, despite of his knowledge that, of what he has told the Messenger of Allah and what would have been the outcome of exposing someone who was very beloved to him. So inshallah, bi'idhnillah, we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.